Hey guys, it's Tahira, and today I'm starting a new reading vlog where I read 3 of my most anticipated releases of the year. Basically, some of my most anticipated books have all come out in the month of April. April has been a great month for new book releases, so I decided to do a video reading some of them. I am a little scared because they're my most anticipated. Of course, the hype is real, but the books I will be reading in this video are 1, The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I love Holly Jackson's Good Girls Guide to Murder series, and I really enjoyed that one. So of course I'm going to be picking this one up. The second one is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I love Leigh Bardugo's book, so of course I had to pick up her new like fantasy standalone. I don't know if this is a standalone. And the last one is of course Funny Story by Emily Henry, which is probably one of my top most anticipated books of the year after House of Flame and Shadow, which already came out back in January. This one I'm so excited for. I've heard so many good things about it. Honestly, from the reviews I've seen online, people have been saying that this is her best book yet. So of course I'm super excited to get to this one. I'm probably gonna read this first because I have the copy. The other two I have on hold from the library and my holds haven't come in yet, so I will be definitely waiting for that. But I will definitely start Funny Story soon. I really actually love the color of this in person, and I don't know if any of her other books have this, but the spine also has these like little like lemons on them, which is really cute. Was not expecting. Also for this one, the premise sounds super fun, so I'm really excited to get to this one. I will probably start this one today. I'm also in the middle of another book that I want to get done by the weekend because the live show for it, because it's part of a book club, and the live show for that is this weekend. And I'm also in the middle of my Akamath reread, so maybe I'll just start a third book and throw that into the mix. This is so weird because I would never read multiple books at once, but for some reason this year I've been reading multiple books at once, at least like currently, which is kind of crazy of me because I've never used to do that. But I will probably be not simultaneously, but be reading this one, the other book that I'm reading for a book club, and then my reread kind of at the same time. My reread's been on the back burner a little bit, but moral of the story, I will be starting this today, and I will definitely let you know my thoughts as I'm reading it. I'm so excited for this one. It's not looking good, y'all. So I figured I would start with sort of giving the history of my Emily Henry journey, I would guess. So my favorite books from her, if I were to rank all of the books so far without Funny Story, I would say Happy Place, then Beach Read, then People We Meet on Vacation, and then Book Lovers. For me is how the ranking sort of lands. I read Happy Place last year and it was one of my favorite books of the year. I gave it 5 stars, and that book I just had so much connection to, and this book is just not giving that same thing. I know that after that book it's really hard to pull off like something that comes even close to that, because for me it's not even that I just really like the book. I feel like I just had like sort of connection to it that I didn't even have in any of her other books, and that's one of the reasons why I just gave it 5 stars, and I still think about it a lot. So I think that book can never truly be topped, but I was hoping that at least Funny Story would be in like her top books, and so far it's definitely not. I don't know, the way that the book is just a little different to me. Emily Henry is really known for writing books that are not only romance but are both romance and like general fiction, because a lot of the time it focuses on outside plots that are not really focused solely on the romance, which I really enjoy about her books, and I really enjoy that aspect of all of her books, especially with Happy Place. I think that's why I also really love that book, because I liked the conversations that were being discussed outside of just the romance between the two characters. But this one follows Daphne and Miles. Also, I completely forgot, but I am like over 60% of the way through, so I am like majority of the way through the book. So I just have, at this point I think I'm closer to like 75%, because I am on page 292 and there's 400 book pages, so I only have like about 100 pages left of this book. So I'm hoping I can get this finished today and give you my final thoughts. But so far, so this one follows Daphne and Miles, and they both were with their own respective people. Daphne was with Peter and Miles was with Petra, But Peter and Petra were actually like best friends, but it was that type of relationship where it's like, oh, don't really worry about her, we're just friends type of relationship. But of course they ended up getting together, confessing their feelings for each other, realizing that they were in love with each other all along, and now Daphne and Miles are kind of left stranded. So they're like having a roommate situation because Daphne had to move out of Peter's house because obviously they have just broken up and Miles had an empty room now that Petra was gone. So they both have decided to be kind of roommates together, but they're like very opposite relationship wise, like personality wise, not relationship wise. They're just very different people, but it's kind of like them saying kind of fake dating because Peter and Petra were like, they kind of to rub in their faces that they were doing okay. Daphne was like, oh, I'm with Miles, blah 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 blah. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but I feel like it says that on the front jacket. Anyway, yeah, so it follows Daphne and Miles's kind of relationship. I realized I'm holding this backwards, upside down. So far what I don't really like about the book is that the way that they were kind of, it felt really insta love to me in the beginning, where right after they broke up they kind of almost instantly had an attraction to each other right away. And I don't know if that's just because they're trying to fill the hole of whatever has been has left their lives, which is like their respective partners, and trying to fill that gap. But their attraction to each other felt very like insta lovey, and I felt like there was not really a basis for it, so I found it really confusing. Also, I did not like the first time Miles was introduced. I did not know that was going to be him, because the way that he was kind of introduced, he was like this bearded guy who was smoking weed and his room was messy, and I was like, there's no way that this is the main love interest. But then he became the love interest, and I don't know, I just was not expecting that to be him, and I didn't want it to be him when I first started reading the book. But I feel like even with the the actual dust jacket of the book, he's like turned around, so I can't really see what he looks like. So I can't really imagine what he looks like. When he was first introduced as like with a beard and everything, I literally imagined in my head this picture right here where it's the guy that's like, when you're trying to like connect dots and stuff, and he's like staring manically at the camera, like that's literally what I thought. And so I can't get the image out of my head, and to me this is not attractive. So that is also another thing that I'm not really enjoying. I don't know, I'm just not connected with the story at all, because I am reading it pretty quickly because the text is like not that, it's like pretty big on the page. But like me being almost 300 pages into this 400-page book, so I'm like pretty much almost close to being done with it, and I feel no connection with the story or the characters at all, to be honest, like the two main characters. And I don't know, I'm just not feeling this book at all, and I'm really disappointed because after Happy Place, I know that I had really high expectations, but I honestly enjoy some of her like earlier books a lot more than this. Like after Happy Place, Beach Read is my favorite, like next favorite book, and I loved that book so much, and the dynamic between the two characters. Even People We Meet on Vacation was cute. Book Lovers I didn't love as much as everyone else did for some reason, but that still to me is a lot better than the relationship between these two characters, and I would gladly read Book Lovers over Funny Story, to be honest. So this might be going last on my ranking so far because I'm just really not feeling this book, which is so sad because every other book I pretty much gave like almost 4 to 5 stars, except Book Lovers, which I probably gave 3.5. This is also probably feeling like a 3 to 3.5 at this point because it's not good. But yeah, I will try to finish this maybe today. The only thing is this whole week that right now is this book came out last week on Tuesday. Right now it's Wednesday of the next week. So it's been a whole week since I first did like the intro clip, which is the last clip you saw. And this week is like my last week of school basically for my college, because I am graduating next week and I have a few final projects to get done. So we'll see how much I can actually finish, because I always say I'm hoping to finish it today and then I never do. And I do have some work I need to do today for some final projects for some classes, so we'll actually see. But I'm really hoping that I can get into a big chunk of it at least to finish it by, if not today, then most definitely tomorrow is my goal. But yeah, I'm just really not feeling it as much as I wanted to. I guess I will keep you guys updated. Please ignore this messy bed. We're gonna ignore that. But I have officially finished Funny Story today, and I am ended in giving it like 3 to 3.5 stars. Honestly, this is the biggest disappointment in every single way, which is so like sad to say because I had such high hopes for this book. As I said before, Happy Place was one of my favorite books last year, and I just had so many high hopes, and I just really wanted this book to like stand up to that, which I feel like was pretty high expectations again, because I don't think anything can actually surpass the connection I had with Happy Place. But this one, I don't know, I just didn't feel connected to the story at all. I didn't feel connected to the characters as much as I have with the other books. I don't know if this is just because of the writing style or if it was just she wrote the characters differently, but I could personally just not connect with them. Like, of course, since Emily Henry is a really good job of like balancing both the romance plot and the outside like just general fiction plots of her books, I think that the outside like plots that each of the characters were dealing with was also sometimes relatable, obviously, because most of the time the things that characters are going through is sort of figuring out who they are as people. And in this case, it was Daphne who had been with Peter for a while, and then she was kind of learning what it's like to be her own person outside of being attached to the people around her, and I really liked the conversations around that. But just, I like the main character Daphne and her job. I feel like I really like that we got a lot of her work and her just day-to-day job life as well, because I feel like we don't see enough of like the careers that women have in books, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But I feel like I definitely connected to Daphne a lot more than Miles. Miles, I just could not connect to at all. I couldn't really see the appeal of him as a love interest. And I feel like I never really got to know him super well. Like, he was is a little bit of a closed book for several reasons that we kind of learned throughout the book. But I thought he would open up a little bit more and we would learn a little bit more about like who he is as a person, his past, like why he is the way he is. And we got a little bit of that for like a page or maybe 2, but that was literally it. After that, there was like no discussion of him, who he is, his personality, and it was mainly him and how it related to who Daphne is. I feel like we really got Daphne as a whole person. We got her like learned about her struggles, we learned about her relationships and the people in her life, like her family, and just making new friends. But with Miles, like, she's definitely is the main character, but for Miles, I feel like for being such a big character, because he is the main love interest, I didn't know anything about him, and I didn't learn anything about him outside of his relationship with Daphne. And also, like, as I said before, their chemistry in the beginning was just so weird to me, because I didn't know why they were really attracted to each other, especially after breaking it off with these long-term relationships, serious relationships where they were literally about to get married to these other people. Suddenly they're broken off and suddenly they start like suddenly have this chemistry with each other. Like, I couldn't buy that aspect of it. And like, I don't know, like, overall I liked Daphne, I liked the writing, but just the overall like romance and Miles as a character I just could not connect to at all and did not like. And so that's why I'm giving this around 3 stars, because I still enjoyed it, but I had some significant issues with it as well. But this does not deter me from Emily Henry, because generally I really love her books. As I said, this is my ranking. If I were to include this in the ranking, honestly, Funny Story is going in last place, because like Book Lovers I didn't love as much, but I don't know, it's probably Book Lovers and Funny Story are really close. But overall, I feel like Beach Read, People We Meet on Vacation, and of course Happy Place are just leagues above Book Lovers and Funny Story for me. And although it's Emily Henry and I don't hate any of her books, this is definitely falling on the bottom of the ranking, which is so sad. But I will always continue to pick up Emily Henry books because I do love her like stories and writing. It's just this one I guess was a little bit of a miss for me, but generally I really enjoy what she writes, so I will always be looking out for her next book. And I also love that her covers all have like a similar consistent theme going on. So I always, like, alongside with the story itself, I always look forward to knowing what the cover is of the next book, and there is no exception for whatever she comes out next. So yeah, this does not pose a very good start to this video, but here's to hoping that the next book is a little bit better. Just a little bit. If it can be higher than a 3 stars, I'll take that as a win. Hello besties, I have many updates. First of all, I am now a college graduate. I graduated yesterday, I guess, or in the past 2 days with my degree. I am officially not a student anymore, so that is exciting news. Also, not exciting news because it means I have to like go out into the real world. But aside from graduating, if you were wondering, I don't know if anyone was, but I graduated with my bachelor's in computer science. Finally I'm done with that, but yeah, here's to new beginnings. The other update I have is that I'm 65% of the way through I was gonna say Good Girls Got to Murder, but the reappearance of Rachel Price. I'm reading it on my Kindle because I got it from the library. And so far I have a lot of thoughts about kind of how the pacing is of the book. So basically the way the book is so first of all, this book is about this girl named Belle, and so Belle's mother has Belle's mother has disappeared. She disappeared like 16 years ago, and Belle is now current day. What we're seeing is that she's taking part in this documentary about the disappearance of her mother, because that case sort of garnered a lot of attention about like the way just everything was, because Rachel just disappeared without a trace. No one really knows she was. So there was a lot of like true crime people that were like really interested in her case, and now there's this filmmaker making a documentary about it, and her family are kind of taking part in that. But while she is doing all of that, her mother actually reappears. And the story is kind of about how Belle thinks that once Rachel reappears, she's acting suspicious and stuff. So Belle is like, what's going on?
What's going on? What's happening?
So basically the main story is about how Belle is sort of trying to figure out what her mother was up to the past 16 years, because she doesn't think she actually disappeared, or she doesn't really believe the story that Rachel is giving, which was that she was taken by a man. So that the story is following that. But the only thing is, like, this book is a little bit, as people are saying, it is a little bit slower paced, and it takes a bit to get into. It honestly didn't take as much time to get into as people were saying, but it's definitely a lot slower than Holly Jackson's other books. One of the biggest reasons I loved A Good Girls Got to Murder was because of the fast-paced nature of it. It was just a case that the main character Pip was solving, but we were getting non-stop reveals, non-stop like action and everything, and sort of just going along the ride with her, and the main character was doing it really quickly, which I think was a really good aspect of the story. But for this one, it's just, I'm not finding myself like wanting to pick it up a lot. With The Good Girls Got to Murder, I was like, I have to know what happens next, because there was constantly things going on. But this one is just, there is stuff happening, but it's sort of like spread out a little bit more in the story, and things I feel like are happening a lot slower. So that's just something that it's been taking me a lot longer than I thought to read, because it's a thriller, which usually I read like super quickly. I was sort of anticipating that this would be the same way, but honestly it's not, like, that's not really the case. As I said, I'm just like not really wanting to pick it up. Like, there's nothing like pushing me to pick up like in the plot, so because the way that the reveals are happening like really slowly over time. And I think that with my thrillers, I much more prefer a fast-paced thriller. So I would say that's definitely something that's not in its favor. But we are slowly learning things. But as I said, we are very slowly learning things. So I hope that because I am in the second part of the book, so I do hope that as we go on, it sort of gets a little bit faster, because I think like the ending needs to be a little bit faster. Otherwise, like, my rating is not going to be that good, because I need a little bit more tension and a little bit more stakes than what is currently happening. Overall, it's not a terrible book. I like Holly Jackson's writing and I like her stories and like the premise. I just feel like this one is just a little bit slower than I wanted it to be and that I think a lot of people wanted it to be. But yeah, so 65% of the way through, I will hopefully I am going on a flight the next like couple of days, so I will be hopefully reading a lot of it on the plane and trying to finish it as quickly as possible. But yeah, I don't know, it's just not really grabbing my attention like I would want a thriller to. But yeah, I'll definitely keep you updated as I am reading more of it. I have a lot of updates to give. So basically, I don't even remember the last time I talked to you. It's been definitely a few weeks. I know I was reading the reappearance of Rachel Price, but did I even give an update? I don't even remember what I talked about in that update. But basically the past 2 weeks I've been on a trip to Spain, so I just was not like had time to like update or anything about any of the books I was reading for specifically this video. But on the plane ride I did finish the reappearance of Rachel Price, so I will be talking about that. I ended up giving this like 3.5-ish stars. In terms of like Holly Jackson's other books, I think this is definitely like, I think I like this probably a little bit more than Five Survive, but I will say this one is pretty slow compared to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is my favorite series by her. I absolutely love that entire series, and just like everything that happens. But yeah, this one is definitely a lot slower. And I'm so sorry if I'm repeating stuff from my last update because like I said, I don't even remember. But yeah, so in terms of the plot, the end of the book was definitely like, I didn't see it coming, but it didn't shock me as I really wanted to be shocked by a thriller. So the ending wasn't as like shocking as I wanted it to be, and sort of the explanations that were given and the reveals that were in the book were a little bit, honestly for me, a little bit like too crazy, almost like a mockery, a little bit like not satirical, but just kind of too out there for me. I don't know, at some point it feels like too much of a, sometimes it feels like it's too crazy and like just like in a funny way. I don't know, it's like really hard to explain. But I didn't like hate this book, obviously. I enjoyed it. I like Holly Jackson's writing, so this wasn't a different in any of for that capacity. But just overall, I think I just wanted a little bit of a faster paced story. This definitely could have been cut down a little bit since it is pretty long as well for a thriller. So it definitely could have been cut down. But I think Holly Jackson is definitely an author that I will keep picking up. So I will be on the lookout for whatever her next book is. But I don't know, it probably, I'm learning, is probably going to be really hard to top the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, just because that one is just super fast paced and it's just constantly go 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 go, reveals happening all the time. And I don't know, just like the way that book is written is like, it changed my brain chemistry when I read it, so I feel like it's gonna be really hard to top that. But overall, it's a solid book. I didn't hate it by any means. I just wish it was a little bit faster and the ending like reveals were just a little bit more, I guess, believable than they were. But other than that, I think it was a solid book and I enjoyed it. Now moving on to the last book for this video, which is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. So I started this book on the plane as well, but I ended up reading it throughout the whole like time I was there. And I will say it was a pretty cool experience reading this book while I was in Spain, because this book is also set in Spain. It's based on the golden age of Spain, so that was definitely a cool experience. This one follows this girl named Lucia, I think, and she is sort of this like maid for this woman named Valentina, who is like this married to this guy, and she's like a mistress, so she's basically a servant for her kind of, and she has a little bit of magic. I think that's sort of like forbidden and no one knows about it, so she keeps it pretty on the low. Basically, it's like she speaks like certain phrases and she can do things. So for example, when she accidentally burnt the bread, she like said something and then suddenly it wasn't burnt anymore. If she goes to the grocery store and there's not enough onions, she can say something and a little bit more onions in her basket, things like that. So yeah, she's been kind of getting away with it, but eventually she's found out and she's put into this like magical like tournament competition thing, and then eventually like the plot takes off from there. Overall, I will say this book is also a little bit slow. I feel like it definitely could have had a faster pacing, and this book wasn't too long. It was just under 400 pages. For standalone fantasy, I feel like that isn't long at all, but just the pacing felt a little bit slow. I did end up giving this like 3.5 to 4 stars, so I actually did enjoy it despite me saying that I wanted to be faster. I just really loved the writing and the sort of like gothic dark atmosphere that was present throughout the book. I really enjoyed it, and even though there wasn't a lot of like plot, like fast-paced stuff happening all the time, I still enjoyed reading what I was reading. So I will say that that's probably one of the reasons I gave it stars, because even if a book is slow, I feel like if it's slow and boring, it's like different. But this one was slow, and I did wish it was faster at times, but it wasn't super boring to me while I was reading. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed all of the characters as well. I wish there was a little bit more of the romance in the book was fleshed out a little bit more than it was, but overall I really liked the relationships between all the characters and just the atmosphere, like I said before. So I'm really glad I read this book. This is like the first book, I want to say one of the first books that I haven't actually bought when Lee Bardugo like releases a book, because the other books have been in the Grishaverse. Other than Rule of Wolves, I have pretty much all of her other books, and this is a standalone like fantasy, so I wanted to see what like just I didn't want to buy it because I didn't want to have to return it if I didn't like it, especially because it was a different world, different like not even series, but just different book, different characters, different world. But I ended up really enjoying it, but I probably won't buy it because I don't know if this is a book I would reread in the future. I probably won't, but I enjoyed my time reading it. Anyways, yeah, I'm sorry, this update is pretty short because again, it's been a little bit since I have finished both of these books. Overall, I think this book was not a failure. I definitely enjoyed all the books I was reading. I didn't get any 5 stars like I really wanted to. Honestly, the biggest disappointment in this video was Funny Story, which I gave like 3.5 stars because I wanted to just really love it, but I didn't love it as much as I really wanted to. And then Reappearance of Rachel Price, again, a really solid and fun book, but just wish it was a little bit faster and a little bit more stuff happened and the ending was a little bit more believable. And The Familiar, again, really solid book, really solid writing and atmosphere. I just wish that the pacing was just a little bit like the book was a little bit fleshed out with its pacing, and it sort of balanced the slower parts and the faster parts, because again, it kind of fell victim to the thing where at the end like a bunch of stuff happens and throughout the whole book nothing was really happening. So if the pacing had been fixed, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. But yeah, nothing I truly like hated in this book, but nothing I truly loved. All of the books were pretty much like middle of the road. 3.5 stars. I'm having this thing where like super hyped releases I'm just not loving as much as I want to. I've only found 1 5-star in this entire year so far, and that is the 7-Year Slip. So I don't know if it's just me not like being more critical this year, or I'm just really not reading books that I think I would like would give 5 stars. I don't know. I don't even know if I have any 5-star predictions for any of the books that I have on my TBR. Maybe I'll do a finishing this video when I find a 5-star type video that I've seen, because maybe that'll help me like read a bunch of books and then eventually find another 5-star, because I am in a 5-star drought right now. Usually I have found at least a couple of 5 stars, but it's almost halfway through the year and I only have 1. Anyways, am I even gonna include this part in the video? I don't know, but these are ponderings for another time. Let me know down below if you read any of these books, as of course I would love to know. But that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.